Hi, Hazel. Lovely to have you in the shed. Thank you for coming. It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be in your shed.
I was hoping we could have a chat about your lovely book, which I happen to have here, To See the Moon. And just, I guess, first question is, what brought you to the shed? How did you find your way here?
Find my way. I think it was a conversation with Leanne Moden, and she said, I think you should talk to Anne. I'd been writing poems and performing for a while, and I hadn't really, well, I guess I'd be lying if I hadn't thought about doing a book, but I hadn't really thought about it seriously. And then I got to a point where I just seemed to have a lot of poems that I sort of wanted to do something with so that I could move on, if that makes sense.
Perfect sense.
And I didn't know much about how to go about that, so I chatted to different people who've done different routes, like self-publishing or focusing on collaborations and things like that. And yeah, I just felt like I needed some guidance with it, so Leanne suggested I have a conversation with you, and then we had a conversation, and it was very nice to meet you, and yeah, you made me feel really confident that it was a thing that could be done. So
I've met you a couple of times, haven't I? You'd come to a couple of writing workshops and I'd seen you at things. So it was, yeah. But it's always interesting to hear about what makes people make the decision to come into the shed. It's good to hear. Because at the start, it was people I knew very well. So it's quite nice when it's people I don't know so well. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the whole process. I think for me, it's interesting you said there were these poems you had to get out, because that's exactly how I was with my collection. I felt like if I didn't get them gone, I didn't know how to move forward. So that felt like we were sort of in sync slightly in terms of that. I think one of the things I love about your book is the little illustrations that are scattered. Now I open the book, that are scattered. Oh, it's difficult on
white out.
The light here. Oh, there it is. It's difficult. You can't see them very well, but they're throughout the book. There are little sketch. You did those, didn't you?
Yeah. Sorry, we've got a cat here.
Hello, Kat. How are you doing? And I recall it was quite a smooth process with you, I think. Is that how? I mean, that's how I look back on it.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess you've more experience with this than I have. I'm glad it felt smooth for you. I think there were moments when, especially towards the end, when you've kind of done it and then you're just waiting, that maybe felt like I got anxious about it, because I couldn't imagine still what it was going to look like as a book. You know, like holding your hands.
Yeah.
You know, you'd done this before, and you know, this is what happens, and then you have a book, and it's going to be real.
I think every single time when I hit send and send, upload the files to the printers, there's a sick feeling, because it's like, oh God, I just hope they bind it the right way round, or there's no typos in it, or someone doesn't come back and say, I don't want that poem in after all. Or so every single time that's like waiting for an event. It's almost like a birthing experience. It's like I'm waiting for this event to happen, and then the box arrive.
Isn't it? It's like you've done everything that you can do, and then you just have to give it over to someone else.
You have to relinquish it completely. I think it's worse for the writer, because that's suddenly the minute, I think I was saying to Kevin in one of our earlier chats, it is like it becomes a thing. It's just a book then, or maybe it was Dan, like all that hurt and passion and love and energy, it's just a book, and it's gone, and some bloke somewhere in a factory is just pressing the button. But I think it's really helpful when I work with someone like you, because you had a vision for it. You knew what size you wanted it to be. You knew you wanted the illustrations. We talked about, I think one of my favourite sessions was where we both sat with the PDF, I think, open at opposite ends and talked about what should stay in and what should go. And that was quite emotional, like going through it line by line.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was really helpful to have your eye on it. And I felt like, because I'd written the poems and performed a lot of them, had kind of developed as I performed them over, you know, months or years, some of them. And some of them were fresher, but they weren't raw to, like, even though they're still meaningful, they weren't fresh and raw. So I was able to have like an analytical approach with it as well.
Yeah.
And I think I'm kind of fairly open to criticism. I think I take criticism quite well, so I was quite open to having suggestions or just like really knowing how it came across. And I felt like your honesty with that was pretty helpful to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you have a good peer network of peer editors, don't you? You mentioned Leanne Moden.
Yeah.
And I think that's very telling when you see a manuscript, because I could tell that this had been, well, worked on makes it sound like it's overworked dough, but it's not. I could tell that what you were presenting to me was as far as you could get it. It was like, take this now, we've done this.
Yeah.
So apart from Leanne, you're part of DIY Poets, aren't you?
Oh, it's when I came to Nottingham, I thought, oh, maybe I'll have a go at doing some poetry and looked up what groups there were and came across DIY, and yeah, I found it brilliant. Just really got into the whole scene in Nottingham through them, and Nottingham's amazing for poetry, isn't it? There's so many different nights. Each one, you'd think it'd be the same people going to each one, but each one just opens up a whole new world of different people and has its own sort of feeling and vibe about it. DIY have been really helpful in terms of giving me confidence to perform and share work that I hadn't really done before. So yeah, massive love to all the poetry.
Do you think you would have had the confidence then to have a printed book if you hadn't stood up and performed?
Yeah, because then it's like a step further on, isn't it? If you say a poem in front of people, that's pretty exposing and terrifying, and then if you give it to them written down, then that's like they've got time to look over it and pore over it and pick it apart. That can be even worse in a way.
It's true. Would you like to read one from the book, or anything else you've written, but from the book would be nice?
Yeah, let's do one from the book. I don't know what to read, Anne. So probably I reckon one of my favourite ones is Brew Love. It's probably one that lots of people have heard, but if they haven't heard it, they might like it. Do you want a brew, love? Don't tell me this is true, love. Sit beside me, read a book. You wash up, but let me cook. I hate hoovering. I could get a cleaner. There's something that I like about your demeanour. I'm willing to share if you don't take too much. We can go out for dinner, but we'll always go Dutch. And you'll have to drip feed me. I can't take all at once. Don't want all encompassing deep feeling. Pick me up, take me out and scrape me off the ceiling. All I want's a brew, love. In this one part of my life, I'm happy to go slow-mo, not jumping both feet first, but nurturing the slow growth. So let's take our time, not race to car crash ending, but learning bit by bit to trust in this befriending and see where it leads us. Into rosy sunset or down the garden path, let's enjoy the journey. And don't think too hard about the destination. I like my solitude. And for your information, to me, it don't feel like cold isolation, but more like freedom. Having room to breathe, because there's three in this relationship. There's you, me, and the space in between. Each needs an equal share, so don't rush me. Don't push me. Don't ask me to declare my feelings. I'm feeling fine and this is good, but I need time. I do like you. You must know that. But I don't think your mum needs to buy a new hat. Not yet. It's early and it's just dawning on me that you might be worth getting to know. So I might let you in. This is the whole weight of my soul. This is where we begin. So I'm holding my breath for all that's unsaid and not knowing what's inside your head. All, some or none of the above. All I'm asking is, do you want to brew love?
Oh, now I'm glad you read that one actually, because one of the things that struck me about your collection was it gave me time to read it. Hello, Pusscat. Not determined. And there's other collections that I've read, which are Miggy Angel actually is someone, when I've got his here somewhere. When I read his collections, yes, Boy Bestiary.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
I've got it, I have it here. And when I've read his collections, I am sucked in and hammer through, which is exhilarating and exhausting, which is great, because it's not an either or thing for me, it's just a difference. And then with yours, it's very gentle. And I don't mean, I've used that term for Kevin Jackson. I don't mean that it lacks power, but it just gave me space and time and take my own time to go through. And that was, I just think there's room in life for being sucked in and carried away, and this. And there are times in my life when I need that quiet time, and it's quite personal. That I feel like I get a lot of you in this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. It's definitely dip in and out of all each, whereas something like what Miggy's doing, it draws you in and pulls you through the whole. And I think some poetry books manage to almost do both. But I guess it's just what comes. I tried to create a bit of an arc, an emotional arc, but it's not a story arc. It's a lot of the poems are biographical, but they're not. It's not telling a story. So yeah, I did read it. It's difficult when you've worked on a book. I have to leave it a while before I then come back. It takes a few weeks, sometimes months, before I'll pick it up as a book new. And it is one that I read through. I didn't dip in and out, but I do find myself going, oh, what was that one where, you know. So I did read through, but it was a gentle, and maybe that's it, that it wasn't a story, it wasn't that kind of narrative arc, but you break it into sections, don't you? Window, yes. Insides. Was it 3 sections? See, it's a long time since I've read this now. Window, insides, and growing. That was it. And that was lovely as well, because it kind of gave me context along the way. And there's quite a political poem really about tomato growers in Italy. And again, I think because it was in sections, I felt comfortable with those other stories slipping in around your story. Yeah, I suppose with those, I'm writing about my thoughts on that. So yeah, I hadn't thought about those sitting differently like that, but I guess they do. It's kind of just what's in your head almost, isn't it? Yeah. And look, it was from a book I'd read called Not on the Label, which is like a really great book, but also if you like eating foods, it's really awful because pretty much all our food is problematic in like how it's made and where it comes from. And yeah, it really affected me quite deeply, that one. So I enjoyed the fact that it gave me a rounder view of, I felt like I was in Hazel's world. Yeah. For a little moment there. Are you writing any more? Have you moved on to write more since? I am writing. I don't know about doing another book. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but I am writing, you know, bits and bobs. I'm not writing loads just at the minute. I'm finding words a bit more tricky, and I'm sort of playing a lot of, I'm looking over there because I've got a piano and I'm just playing the piano. So I just feel like my brain can't concentrate on words at the minute.
Yeah.
But I think I have these phases where I think, oh, I'm not writing at all. And then I look back at a notebook and find that I actually have been writing. I've just not really got any finished pieces, or I haven't really felt like I've been writing.
So you don't feel a pressure to bring out more?
No. I mean, I loved making this book and I'm really proud of it. I think it's a beautiful object, but yeah, I'm not in any big rush. I think it served the purpose that I needed for me to kind of tidy those ones into a thing and move on. And yeah, maybe another will come, maybe it won't, but I'm very go with the flow kind of a person when it comes to that. I'm not like, I don't have any great ambitions. I enjoy writing, performing, you know, reading and hearing other people and being part of the poetry family. But beyond that, I'm not trying to crack into anything.
Are you reading much at the moment?
I am, yeah. I was going to mention, so I had, Mickey's book, which I loved. I know you like it too. I also have a book from my friend Sarah Crutwell called Polyfilla.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Really, and that's one where you think, well, I got it a couple of weeks ago and dipped in and out, but this morning I sat and read it from cover to cover, and actually it tells a great story, as well as each poem being a story in itself.
Yeah.
That's
cool. Yeah, it's interesting at the moment. It's talking to different people about how much their brains, some people are writing voracious. Can you write voraciously? Well, they're doing it anyway. And other people, it's like, I feel like I've got a goldfish brain at the moment. It's like, it comes, it goes. I'm having to do small.
Yeah, it takes time to process stuff sometimes, and then you're churning over stuff. You're not always, maybe you are writing, but you're not actually physically writing it. You know, you're in your brain, you're trying to process it and make sense of it, and then it comes out in a big outpouring later on. But I feel like at the minute I'm in the churning stage.
Could we hear another poem?
Yeah, sure. Have you any requests, then? I don't know what.
I knew you were gonna. I don't know if it's too emotional to do, and it's the one because it came out of a writing workshop where we played a piece of a poem by Andrea Gibson.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay to do?
Yeah.
Cool.
So this in or after a Big White Shed, workshop. And the poem by Andrea Gibson was called Tell Me. So this is called That Room. I cannot tell you about that room, or why fresh paint smells of despair, and comfort is a well-worn coat, or unchanged sheets, or a refound long-lost spare, balding, with a button for a nose. I could give you my childhood in a box, and still you would not know.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I always seem to go to the very sad, poignant ones, but
there are a few of them in there.
And I know we had conversations about writing sad things about your childhood and not wanting to offend family members who are still. I mean, I've got to say there was no dark trauma in there perpetrated by family members, but there was sadness that we had conversations, didn't we, about whether or not it would hurt those who are still here.
I think it can be tricky when things have been taboo for so long. And for me, partly what's important about poetry is you can break taboos. You can talk about things that aren't allowed to be talked about. And for some people, you know, that's different for different people, depending on what they've experienced or what their circumstances are. But I think anything that you can't talk about it's going to eat away at you unless you find a way to express it. So this has been kind of cathartic for me.
Been well received by friends and family and
yeah, mixed.
I feel like we need a whole other hour to talk that through.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, yeah, they seem pleased and proud of me, and they're okay with me saying whatever. No, I'm pleased. They've all, you know, been really supportive, and it started some conversations in some ways that probably needed to happen. So yeah.
Well, thank you. I can't believe we've whizzed through. Thank you so much for coming into the shed. I've missed seeing all my poetry family. I'm glad for Zoom, but it's not the same, and I can't wait for a DIY special or a Big White Shed special where we can be in a room together.
Thanks so much for everything and for this conversation.
And I'll see you soon in the real world. It'll be great. Bye.
Right, bye-bye. Take care.